Today, I'm making Nebula Soaps using Mad Micas Deep Space Collection. Starting right off with Supernova, a gorgeous sparkly copper. And then the next one I think I'm showing you is Nebula, which when you see later, you're going to be shocked how beautiful it is in clear melt and pour soap. Then we have Zero Gravity, which is a black, sparkly, glittery, beautiful color. Here comes Spacewalk, a deep, lovely blue, again with lots of sparkle. Then we have Luna. This one's so hard to describe, but it is gorgeous in soap. It's a light, silvery, but it shimmers purple or purple blue. And then Interstellar is the most beautiful silver I think I've ever seen or used. And I'm so excited to do more with that one in the future. I'm showing you one last mica here. This isn't part of the Deep Space collection, and I actually didn't end up using it in this one, but it's called Blue Moon, and it would work beautifully with this set of micas. I just ended up having too much going on and didn't really need to add that one to this. So here I've got my premium crystal clear Crafter's Choice soap base from Wholesale Supplies Plus. Not affiliated with any of these people, by the way. These are just my choices of what I wanted to use. While I'm melting this soap down, let me just tell you a little bit about the colorants and why I chose these. I already have a line of galaxy space type soaps in my collection, and was planning to expand that. I started planning that back in the fall. And just so happened that Mad Micas was releasing this collection, and I was planning to make a Nebula soap anyway. And then I saw this collection, and I was like, those are the perfect colors. And indeed they were. I tend to normally stick to a little bit brighter colors for my space-themed soaps. A little kitschy, maybe a little cartoonish. They're beautiful, but I use a lot of neons and kind of over the top. So I wanted this Nebula soap to look more like a real nebula. And so when these colors came out, I was really excited to work with them. And what I'm beginning with, other than a mess that you see I already spilled, because you know it's not a soap for me if I don't spill in the video, I'm going to start with a basic swirl on the bottom as a base for this soap. You see me putting in my fragrance oil, which I think is Raspberries and Sweet Mint, which is a Bath & Body Works dupe. I think this version is from Aztec. I wanted to show you me stirring that in real quick just because I wanted you to see if you don't stir your oils in well, you will not really have a true clear soap. I mean, it's not great for your skin either, but this just shows you how quickly it clears up if you just keep stirring a little bit longer than you think it needs to be stirred. It clears right up. And I also did not use the full percentage I was allowed on this. I can go into that later maybe, but I think I'm only using about 2% in this soap, but it's a nice strong fragrance, and I chose it for that reason. I didn't need a lot of oil, and therefore wouldn't cloud up the crystalline look that I wanted to have for this. I really like the clarity of soaps to shine in my art soaps. So there you see me stirring in the Interstellar. I know most people stir their micas into alcohol, and I usually do too. I just don't always. This soap here that I'm stirring, these two, the black and the blue, I'm trying to cool them a little at the same time. I'm going to be swirling them in a very thin layer, which is why this works fairly easily for swirling, is because I'm doing it in a very thin layer. The thinner the layer you're pouring, the faster it cools, and therefore the easier it is to swirl, usually. There, I cleaned up my mess. So this, look at the sparkle on that soap. That is so beautiful. That mica is gorgeous. And there's the spacewalk. I was going here for my background color, kind of creating a canvas of the space look, the black that you would see. But of course, I wanted to put some highlights in it. Didn't want it to just be a plain background, which I usually do for my other Galaxy soaps. And you can find those on my channel, or at least one of them is on my channel right now. I'm just cleaning up the edges a little. I didn't have to. I'm just a little, I overdo. So I'm spritzing that. It cools fairly quickly because it's very small, very thin layer. So I let it set up fully, and you're going to see me measure the temperature here, and I go heat it back up because it's not hot enough, even though 122 is a great pouring temperature for this soap. It's a fairly low temperature melting point. But in order to stick to the base color I have set up, it has to be fairly hot. And you want to find a point where it's hot enough to stick, and to be able to layer in some other colors, and yet not hot enough to melt the underlying layer. If I poured that whole pitcher in at that temperature, it would definitely melt the bottom. But again, I'm just pouring a very thin layer. I'll talk a little bit more about my layering technique as we go. I'm just putting in dry mica. This is a dry mica swirling technique that I've used in many of my soaps. I find it particularly effective in soaps like this, really artsy soaps and crystals, things where not a specific pattern is necessary. And you see me swirling it here. It swirls in pretty easily because the soap is still pretty warm, but it doesn't swirl enough to muddy things up. You'll see this happen a lot in this soap, where normally some of the colors I would pour, if you were to do this in a loaf pan or a loaf mold, sorry, not a pan. But if you were to do this in a loaf mold, a lot of these colors would start swirling together and muddy and blend more than you want, or at least blend more than I want for this look. I'm looking here for some background sparkle. I want it to look, oh, there's another spill. Background sparkle, and these kind of look like clouds to me, space clouds. And it's a very iridescent color. I don't know if the camera shows that at this moment, but I think later on when you see the finished soap, you'll see that. And here's my next mica swirling technique. This is a different one. This one is kind of a wet mica swirling technique. I use 3 different techniques in this for swirling micas. And so, at least 3. Oh no, I don't remember. Squirting alcohol, just 99% rubbing alcohol in there. I didn't stir it very well, as you see, but I'm basically just using the part with more alcohol in it. You can't cover an entire layer with this. Well, you can, but if you do that, you're risking the soap not sticking. You have to be careful when you're layering with mica, whether it's you're brushing it on or sprinkling it on or mixing it in alcohol and dotting it on like I'm doing here. I also come back in, as you'll see, I don't leave it alone. I spritz it again with alcohol, which does spread it out further. But because it's a large, flat surface with a very thin layer of mica, it spreads it out a little, but not so much that it totally destroys the image and the look of these little splotches of color. Again, going for more space clouds, nebula type gas clouds, and stars being born and all the fun stuff that happens there. You'll see here I come back in with the soap. Still fairly warm, and this is intentionally going to be breaking through that previous layer. This is what I'm calling, I don't know. I'm making up a name right now, but maybe somebody else has a name for this technique. I'm calling it wet layering. I'm intentionally breaking through the layers a bit, but still adding additional layers on top. I find in the soaps I use this technique for, I find that I can usually get 3 layers like this. They all need to be thin, and it all depends on what you're doing. Again, this is not something for precision. This is for the kind of design where it's very artsy, it's very fluid, it's an open design. You're not looking to get an exact picture of a puppy or something like that. So, and those are my favorite because really there's very few mistakes you can make design-wise. It's art, and art isn't exact. It's an expression. So I think I do 3 layers with this one. And then I let that, you'll see, I let that completely set up and then start again. And you can do many layers like that as long as you're aware of your temperatures and allow the layers that need to adhere together. Well, they all need to adhere together. But once you get a layer that is completely set up, then you have to pour hot enough so where the next layers will adhere. So this color, the Nebula color, oh my goodness, is so beautiful. That purple that shines through is so amazing. And a little blue, hint of blue in there, and it's very pearlescent. It looks gorgeous in the soap. I imagine it look gorgeous in anything you put it in. But, oh, sorry for the table quake. That's fun. Here I'm doing, I think, the final layer in this portion of the soap. I think I'm going to consider this, even though I'm pouring several layers, I'm going to call it one layer when I label my chapters. But you see me going in again with clear. One of the important things about doing soaps like this is making sure you get the edges. It's very easy to forget to get to the very edges, and you want to do that first because that needs to adhere really well in order to maintain the integrity of the soap. You'll also notice I poured more clear in, even though I didn't pour a whole layer in right here where I'm pouring. I didn't need to pour more clear soap because it still wasn't set up. So it goes in and it flows, and you're able to blend it a little bit, but not so much that you're muddying it with that copper. Normally you have that purple and copper together swirling in a soap, you're just going to have mud. But because you're doing thin layers, it works. So that top corner that I added the clear soap to, it was starting to set up enough to where I needed the clear soap to help it blend, help it move and be fluid. And this little bottom here, I just added the part where you see me pouring now, I'm adding it over the top of it. That's 2 different ways to swirl that. If you're doing this kind of layering, you can pour the clear soap first and either pour in your soap or sprinkle your micas or add micas with alcohol, whatever you want to do. But the soap has to be there too and has to be fluid enough to help the colors work around the way you want them to work. You notice it's kind of looks like a bumpy mess right now. And that's okay at this point. You'll see that I clear that up pretty quickly when I get to the next step. Trust what you see. I mean, if you like it, it's going to pretty much look like that because you're doing thin layers. If you're doing a very large batch, or I mean a very thick batch at a time, pouring like this, it's not going to set up in enough time, and everything's going to be muddy. But pretty much what you see here is what you get. It stops the motion of these micas in movement before they have a chance to really muddy and make it ugly. So I think I let it set up here, and here we go. We're starting fresh. That layer is fully set up now, or those layers, I'm sorry, are fully set up now, and I am starting with a hot soap. Now for the type of soap I use, hot means about 133 to 135 at the very most. As cool as I will pour a layer like this for a soap is around 130. It changes if you're doing embeds. That's another story and another technique, which I will talk about in another soap. But as long as you're not adding embeds, you're not going to melt that bottom layer. by pouring that in there. If you're doing a soap with a higher melting point, you want to take it a little bit. It needs to be above the melting point. The melting point of my soap is between 120 and 125, and that's why I'm taking it at the most 10 degrees above that, but 5 to 10 degrees above melting point for this. This is the this is the Interstellar. Again, this is the best silver I've ever found. I've never been happy with a silver mica or really even a silver glitter that's soap safe. This is so pretty. It's a true silver. It's not a white pretending to be a silver. It's not a light blue or a light purple pretending to be a silver. It is true silver, and it is sparkly, and it's gorgeous, and it's my new favorite. So you'll probably see that in a lot of soaps coming up because it's just to die for. And what I was going for in this little bit here is I was trying to streak it a little. I almost wanted it to look like shooting stars or shooting gases coming from these nebulas. And I feel like I get that look. The streaking actually worked out better than I thought it would. But that's what happens when you play. This, by the way, is a completely off-the-cuff soap. I knew the colors I wanted to use, and I had a basic idea of what I wanted it to look like. But each layer was, hey, let's try this. So this is true improv here, as is my talking, and I'm not doing a great job of that. But I'm kind of just watching and saying what my thoughts were or saying what my technique was as I was going. Hopefully it can help you if you try a soap like this. It really is much easier than it looks when you look at the finished product. To me, the finished product reminds me of a Jackson Pollock painting. It looks like a nebula, but it has that feel to it for me, like slung paints, even though it's a little bit more swirly than that. You can bet I'll be playing with that idea in the near future. I really have a thing for art soaps and expressing myself in this way. It's my favorite thing. So I didn't have to do this layer, but I'm kind of glad I did. I came back in with a couple of the darker colors. I was mostly going darker to lighter, with the exception of that first iridescent layer in the beginning. But I came back with the spacewalk and the, what's that one called? Zero Gravity is the black one. So I kind of wanted to add a little shading, a little shadow. I'm very glad I did, because when I finish this soap and pull it out of the mold, I found the back layer wasn't as dark as I thought it was. I tricked myself a little bit here with having the red mold, but it's the only one I have in that shape, and I really wanted it. I'll probably be looking for one that is more like a true slab mold in the future, because that's what I really want. But I went with what I had because I didn't want to spend more money. So here is more of the dark layering. It's just supposed to be a little bit of shade to break up all the lightness there. A little bit of shadow in front, which is, I know sounds kind of weird, but that's the way I did it. And I do like the results. I think in the future, and something I want to do in all my videos here is say a little bit about what I like about the soap, what I would change in the future, and maybe what did or didn't work for me in the soap. It doesn't mean I don't love the soap, because I do. I was thrilled with how it came out. But there's always something, I'm picky, and there's almost always something I think I could improve. I look to improve daily, hopefully. So spritzing that one, I think I leave it alone after. No, I don't. I come back in with some clear soap, because I still, the black and the darker blue, I really wanted them to be have a little bit more fluidity. And I just waited a second too long, I believe. The top was starting to get a little bit of a film, so it wasn't really moving. I thought maybe if I come back in with some clear, I really, in all truth, should have heated the soap up again a little bit, but I didn't. So I still made it work, and that's part of the beauty of this style of soap. Usually, if you don't panic, you can usually make it work. Just kind of still flipping around with that black, trying to get it to do something. It's stuck. It's done. Terry, stop it. And you have to kind of learn by trial and error with this kind of soap. Get the feel for what the soap is doing. You have to know your soap base that you're using very well. That's one of the reasons I encourage people to try different soap bases. Once you find one you love, you work it really well and play with it so you know what it's going to do when you try to swirl, when you try to do things like that. So this last layer I do on any of my soaps like this, and it's just a clear layer to smooth everything out, make sure it adheres together. So of course that's a very hot layer because I let the layers beneath set up thoroughly before I added the clear layer on top. I love soaps like this to have depth. I want you to see all the way into space. And I feel like it really does give that image in the finished piece. So you're about to see me totally botch cutting. I guess I'll show you the soap first. It's a really cool big square of soap. You see what I mean about it being a little too see-through at the back. That wasn't my original design or my original idea. I did want that background to be really dark and have all of the other colors kind of pop out on top in layers. So I'm kind of glad I came back in with the dark because that offsets that a little bit. If I were to try this soap again, there are a few things I would change. And one of those is I would make the background darker and make it a thicker layer. The micas are fine. I just didn't put enough in for what I wanted. I might go for adding a touch of activated charcoal. I'm not sure, though, because I really do like the sparkle. And I don't want to hide that. I just need to add the correct amount. I was going off the cuff and playing as I went. So I also didn't measure the blue and black evenly. And I think I would do that because I think the blue overshadowed the black quite a bit. I just had more. But that's what learning is. Well, now I know to measure it. I'm cutting the edges of this off because it's a little bit of a rounded mold, and I didn't want that look for this. I promise those scraps will be used. In fact, sometime soon I'll do some scrap soaps using some of the scraps I've recently made in videos so you can see them being put to use. Here comes the atrocious cutting. I love my Uncle Andy's cutter, but it works for loaf soaps, not really for slabs. I can usually do better than what I did today. You see, I'm very careful measuring it out. I've got it all marked, and then I get the edge of this knife, double-handled cheese knife, which I really highly recommend for cutting large slabs of any kind. But you see, it gets stuck. It goes down earlier than I wanted it to, and it wasn't quite lined up yet, and I couldn't get it. I couldn't not make the cut because it was already in there. I couldn't. There was nothing I could do. It was stuck. So it does it again on the other side, but I still think the soap turns out beautiful. I don't think it's distracting at all once when you see the final product. It's a little off, but again, it's art. It's not so off that it looks bad. So this is it. Look how stuck that is. I was so mad at myself. There may have been a few curse words flying around the room, which I'll never put in my videos, which is why I don't talk while I soap in the videos. Oh my goodness. It's so pretty. I was really proud of this soap. I feel like this is a piece of art. Even though there are things I would do differently, the darker background, I would make it thicker. My larger soaps are usually a little thicker than this. They're just a little thin for me. And probably the thicker background would would work, because I don't think it needs another layer of color. I don't want it to get so busy that you can't get the idea of what you're looking at or what the intention is. Can you see how the various colors are just layers deep? They look like you're looking into a little world. I hope you're able to see that on camera. It's definitely clear in real life when you're seeing that. Oh my goodness, there is that nebula purple. The camera still isn't quite picking it up the way I wanted it to show you. It's got just the most beautiful hint of luminescent blue in there, but it remains a true purple, but the blue is just stunning and perfect for something like this. Why am I spraying these with alcohol, you might wonder? And that is because I just want you to see what they're like when they are being used. When you first dunk them in water, that's what they're going to look like. Maybe even a little more clear than this. But I'm not dunking them in water because I don't really want to use a soap before somebody buys it. So just giving you the idea so you can see fully into the soap. They do, when I wrap them with saran wrap, and when I do the clarity, that helps the clarity. It kind of just pops out and looks like you're looking right into glass. This one I was showing you first without spraying because I wanted you to see the difference. This is what it's like just fresh out of the mold. Nothing on it, no alcohol, no water, nothing extra to make it clear. It's still pretty darn clear. And then I spritz it for you. Oh, I love that one. I know you have to be able to see the layering in that. And the sparkle. Can you see the sparkle to me, the ones that stand out, the sparkles that stand out are the bronze, supernova, and the interstellar, the silver one. A lot of them, well, most of them had a little bit of sparkling mica in them. There are 0 glitters added to this one, which was a huge restraint for me. I don't know if you've seen any of my previous soap videos, but I tend to love adding glitter to most of my soaps. I do a lot of crystal type soaps and soaps that just, to me, really scream for glitter. And I love glitter, so always using soap safe glitter and biodegradable glitter. Mostly I use the sparkling micas because I know they don't cause any problems in soaps, and they're beautiful. Oh my goodness. Yeah, you can see that. There's a lot of sparkle in the black and the zero gravity, which is the black, and in the dark blue as well, the spacewalk. But those are at the back, so you don't see them as much. Beveling here. I only beveled one on film because I kind of wanted to just see if I liked it or not. And honestly, I'd love your opinion on that. If you, well, in a moment you'll see I'm going to hold up one that isn't beveled, and I'd love to see what your thoughts are. Do you like it beveled? Do you prefer to see soaps beveled, especially ones like this? I feel like it really enhances the look of the clarity, and it just makes you look a little deeper into the picture, in my opinion. But I just want to know what you think. I know some people love beveled soaps and some people don't. I think it's a beautiful look for some soaps. I don't do it with every soap, but soaps like these I really like too. I eventually did bevel all of them, but I only did the one on camera because I kind of wanted your opinion. So those are those two side by side, and you can compare. I'm going to show you the soaps individually now from pictures I took in my light box. And while those are showing, I just want to thank you so much for spending this time with me. I love improvising this type of soap, and hopefully within my little bit of mess of not knowing what I was going to do, hopefully I could still teach you a little something or give you some ideas, maybe spark some ideas for you, create an interest in this type of soap. What's it going to hurt to try? If it goes really awry, it's melt and pour soap. You can remelt it. You can cut it into crystal shapes and use it there. But please feel free to ask questions. Please like and subscribe if you really got something from this soap. I love sharing my soap art with you, and hopefully through watching my channel, maybe I can help you to become a better soap maker. Thank you so much. Bye.